Chapter 41. Infected Soldiers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. Infected Soldiers. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. At this moment, everyone looked over at the man. Su-Wen walked to his side, then directly pulled his trouser up, only to find that there was a deep bite mark on his leg. There was no doubt that he must have been bitten by a zombie just now. What are we going to do? Li panicked when he saw this. If he was bitten by a zombie, the blood in its mouth or the virus in its saliva would enter his wound at this time. It would cause infection. The rest of the soldiers were stunned when they saw this and were at a complete loss as they looked at his wound. There's no cure once you get infected directly, Lin Xiu came over at this moment and said. This was also one of the reasons why dealing with zombies was extremely dangerous. Evolved beasts were still fine, the viruses mutate in the body, and even if attacked by an evolved beast, there was no risk of infection. No, there must be a way. A soldier yelled. His eyes were red too. Who would have thought that a companion whom he was laughing and chatting with would become like this in a short span of time? It was hard for them to accept this. Actually, there is a way. The source strength of a warrior rank 6 and above can eliminate the virus in the body, but, Lin Xiu paused for a moment. But you wouldn't be able to find a warrior rank 6 and above here. No, not just this place, even in Xingyao City, rank 6 warriors were rare. And the virus developed very quickly. The virus would basically enter the brain of a rank 1 warrior within just 10 minutes, and by then, the warrior would become a zombie. Quickly, kill me. De Zhu gritted his teeth at this point and then roared at the crowd. I don't want to see myself become a monster. Su-Wen and the others looked at him motionlessly. The mood of the crowd became oppressive at this moment. De Zhu's face contorted at this moment, and his veins were protruding out of his head. His eyes were also gradually turning red. It was clear that he was becoming a zombie. Hurry up. Kill me. De Zhu seemed to be in a lot of pain at this moment, and his spit kept flowing out of his mouth. His teeth were turning sharp too. Roar. In the next second, he broke free and was about to bite the nearest soldier. That soldier's pupils constricted, he couldn't react fast enough and was about to be bitten by that infected soldier. Hurry up. But at the crucial moment, De Zhu seemed to regain a little sanity and gritted his teeth as he spoke. Bang! A silver spear pierced his head. He's completely infected, and he used the last of his strength to stop himself from biting you. Lin Xiu's mood at this moment was also a little complicated. This soldier's willpower was so strong. If he didn't control himself just now, that soldier would have been bitten. Human nature has both darkness and brilliance. De Zhu. Having escaped death by a fluke, the soldier was stunned and his eyes were filled with tears. Bang, bang, bang. Just then, the shutter door over there seemed to have something knocking against it. The sound was so urgent, like something was about to break in. What's going on? Su-Wen frowned and stood up, then went straight over there. Through the dark glass window, he could clearly see that there were over a dozen zombies gathered outside. They looked sinister and were howling non-stop. Then, the shutter door was cut directly by a sharp claw. That door was going to break soon, and the zombies were coming in. Roar! It appeared that a zombie had noticed Su-Wen's shadow and was right in front of that dark glass window at this moment, constantly knocking against it. Soon, the dark glass window began to crack. The zombies are coming. What? The soldiers had been sitting on the ground, resting for only a short while when they heard Su-Wen's words. They couldn't help but stand up immediately. They looked toward the dark glass window and saw more and more zombies coming round the window. Go, let's go. Lin Xiu frowned when he saw the scene. Rank 2 zombies had a special characteristic of moving together. There might be only a dozen zombies right now, but when the fight began, there would be more and more zombies around, like what they just encountered. When the others heard Lin Xiu's words, they quickly went upstairs. On the second floor, there was also a thick iron door. The second they all got up, Lin Xiu immediately shut it. So even if those zombies caught up, the door could not be easily broken. When those zombies didn't see their shadows anymore, they would slowly disperse. This building was very tall and quite old, coupled with the corpses upstairs, and the bloodstains that had dried up and stuck to the ground, the entire place looked a bit like a horror movie scene. The higher they went, the more cobwebs appeared. Squeak, squeak, squeak. What's this noise? Hearing this sound, a soldier could not help but swallow his saliva and asked. Lin Xiu had goosebumps at this moment as well. There were a lot of cobwebs and strange sounds like there was something weird above. It can't be mutated spiders or anything, right? Li Yi smiled and said out loud. The moment he said that, a dark shadow jumped down from the ceiling. All of a sudden, it pounced on Li Yi's back. Ah! What's this? What's this? Li Yi felt something behind him and began to panic. His hand stretched to his back, then he realized that he caught something hairy and even had a few long legs. Lin Xiu, who was standing behind him, was also startled. He really didn't see this thing just now. The analytic eye was activated automatically. Rank 1 Black Spider Features. Spiders that mutate due to nuclear contamination. Characteristics. Enormous and are slightly toxic. Just a rank 1 evolved beast. Lin Xiu heaved a sigh of relief and took out his long spear. He pierced the spider's head and tossed its body to the ground. Thank you. Li Yi turned around and was relieved to see this scene. It really scared him just now. Lin Xiu made a hushed gesture at this moment because he found that there were more and more strange noises, and the noises were getting louder and louder, as if those things were getting closer and closer. Chapter 42. Evolved Zombie. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. Evolved Zombie. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation, there won't be another spider, will there? Li Yi looked at that huge spider carcass that had fallen to the ground. Close your big mouth. Lin Xiu glared at him and said. He picked up that black spider's carcass but realized that there wasn't any odd crystal. Could it be because these things were the product of nuclear contamination, so they were different from evolved beasts and didn't have any odd crystal? It was a bit of a disappointment for Lin Xiu. The stairs weren't wide and could only fit 3 people side by side, it really looked a bit crowded. And it was very hard for Lin Xiu to wave his long spear in a place like this. Spiders. Spider. Just as they were about to go up to the 3rd floor, a soldier seemed to see something and got a fright. Even his voice was shaking. Spider. Lin Xiu walked to the front and saw a large number of spiders crawling on the wall. They were crawling toward them. Why are there so many of them? Lin Xiu's pupils constricted when he saw this scene. And Li Yi covered his mouth, thinking that he really jinxed it, whatever he said actually came true. The size of these spiders was no different from the one they saw just now, and they looked terrifying. Shoot quickly. Su Wen's expression changed when he saw this and quickly reacted. At this moment, everyone quickly took out their laser guns when they heard him. If they went into close combat with this type of large-scale evolved beast, they could get entangled in their bodies easily and it would be very troublesome. Here you go. Su Wen looked at Lin Xiu and saw that he did not carry a laser gun, so he tossed the laser pistol that the dead soldier was carrying over to Lin Xiu. Lin Xiu did not stand on ceremony and simply took it. He carried the silver immortal soul spear in his left hand and held the laser pistol on his right as he shot at the spiders. A series of laser rays kept shooting out, and a large number of giant black spiders were killed. The 8 people continued to shoot, and more than half the spiders that were coming from that corridor were dead. After pulling the trigger crazily for some time, those spiders along the corridor were finally all dead. There were black spider carcasses all over the ground, and looking at them gave one goosebumps. Su-1, do we have to keep going up there? It wasn't easy to get rid of all those spiders, and everyone was a little tired. At this moment, a soldier asked Su-1. Su-1 became silent. If they continued to walk up and encountered any weird creatures, they would be in trouble. Right now, nobody was in great condition and they must take a quick rest. But it was obviously not a good place to rest, and they weren't sure if those zombies would catch up to them. Keep going. Lin Xiu put the laser gun in the pocket behind his pants and said as he walked upstairs. But upstairs, the soldier frowned and was about to say something when he heard banging from that iron door below. It must be that those zombies had caught up and were constantly hitting the iron door below. Let's go. At this moment, no one objected and directly followed Lin Xiu upstairs. There were a lot of cobwebs in the whole building and they should be made by those black spiders. Lin Xiu made a slash upwards with his long spear, and with a slight use of skill, a flame was released in an instant. Those cobwebs caught fire, and soon, all the cobwebs in the corridor began to slowly disappear with the fire burning. Those small spiders and spider eggs on the webs were all burned by the fire. Finally, there are no spiders. Li patted his chest and said. Although these spiders were not too difficult to deal with, there were many of them and just looking at them was disgusting. They continued going upstairs and didn't encounter anything strange, which allowed everyone to heave a sigh of relief. Bang! Lin Xiu kicked open the locked iron door leading to the roof. In an instant, the glaring sunlight shone on everyone's bodies. I'm so tired. Their tensed emotions could finally be at ease, and those soldiers couldn't help but lay on the ground and rest comfortably. Let's restore some energy here first. Su-1 also sat on the ground, then took out a packet of special compressed biscuits from his pocket to eat. Before setting off, everyone took a lot of iron rations, which provided a lot of energy and was very small and easy to carry. The so-called iron rations of the former world simply could not be compared with those in the future world. Lin Xiu also took out some iron rations from his pocket to replenish some physical strength. Then, he stood at the edge of the roof to look down and found that in the area below, there were still a large number of zombies. And at this moment, there was a giant evolved beast in the middle, and it was biting the zombies and tearing them up. As soon as the analytical eye was activated, Lin Xiu found that the beast below was only a rank 2 saber-tooth hound. It was very large in size, and its body was also very flexible. As its claws waved, several zombies were killed in an instant. But there were so many zombies that the saber-tooth hound was soon surrounded by zombies. As the saying goes, no matter how big elephants are, they are still afraid of ants. That's because when the number of ants reached a certain point, they would be able to tear the whole elephant into shreds. And now the same was true, that ferocious saber-tooth hound quickly tore the zombies up, and within minutes, a huge skeleton appeared. Lin Xiu could not help but gasp when he saw this. If they continued to fight just now, this could possibly be their outcome. Only now did he understand the dangers of this task. He continued looking and found that the odd crystal seemed to be swallowed by a zombie. Zombies also devour odd crystals. Seeing this scene, Lin Xiu's pupils constricted as he stared at the zombie that devoured the odd crystal. The zombie's body, which was originally a little thin and frail, appeared to change after devouring the odd crystal. It became taller and stronger. The analytic eye was activated. This was originally a rank 2 zombie, but now, it actually turned into rank 3 according to the analytic eye's analysis. I see. These zombies rely on devouring the odd crystals to evolve. Chapter 43. Learning the Silver Skill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43. Learning the Silver Skill. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Lin Xiu, what are you looking at? Li looked at Lin Xiu, who was standing at the edge and looking down at the situation. He became curious and came over to take a look at what Lin Xiu was looking at. When he saw the dense clutter of zombie figures below, he could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva and felt cold perspiration trickle down his spine. It was truly too horrifying. Was their team supposed to kill all of these monsters? Let's take a rest first. Lin Xiu patted him on the shoulder, then sat at the side and took out the silver skill card Torrential Storm of Rose Flowers. I am a rank 1 warrior now, I should be able to learn this silver skill, right? You're going to learn a silver skill, right here and now. Su Wen saw Lin Xiu's action and asked in shock. It was extremely difficult even for a warrior like him that was of rank 2 to learn a silver skill. And in Su Wen's eyes, Lin Xiu was at most a quasi-warrior. Yeah, Lin Xiu, I think you should wait a while before learning it, Li Yi spoke up. The reason behind their advice was that all the recording and training patterns inside the skill card would flow into the user's head once used. But even with all the information, it still required endless training and practice to unleash the might of the skill. It was like pouring all the memory and skills of an expert into the mind of an ordinary person. Even if he knew how to utilize the techniques, they would still be useless if the physique and muscles were not trained well enough. Information from a bronze skill card could be retained for about a week, while a silver skill card could be retained for 3 weeks. I have to learn Torrential Storm of Rose Flowers completely within the 3 weeks. He placed the silver card on his forehead as a cool metal sensation seeped in. The silver skill card released a bright light, and Lin Xiu immediately felt new information appear in his mind. It was as though he had trained in the skill for very long and could unleash them at any moment. Lin Xiu's eyes sparkled as he sensed the marvel of the skill. He gripped onto Silver Immortal Soul and started practicing it. As the saying goes, in martial arts, the speed at its utmost extreme cannot be defeated. And the main aspect of the Torrential Storm of Rose Flowers was speed. To unleash hundreds of attacks on surrounding enemies in a short span of time and prevent them any opportunity of defending. Even if the enemy withstood 1 attack or 2 attacks, would they be able to withstand 100 explosive attacks in a second? Although the skill was extremely powerful, it demanded a great deal from the user as well. Not only must the user have explosive strength, but he also needed to harmonize the power as well. Lin Xiu held on to Silver Immortal Soul and faced the wall near the steel doors and took a deep breath. His gaze turned cold as he bellowed out loud, Torrential Storm of Rose Flowers. So, it felt as though little specks of cold aura had appeared for every spear that he brandished. A few holes appeared on the wall before him. No, it's slow, too slow. This guy, Su Wen looked over and saw the spear unleashed by Lin Xiu as shock appeared on his face. Even he might not be able to defend against that speed. He had just learned the silver skill and used it for the first time, but he was able to reach such a degree of finesse. One had to know that a silver skill's exhaustion on the body was not something a bronze skill could compare to. Li Yi could not help but stare at Lin Xiu seriously. In the beginning, he only had a good feeling towards Lin Xiu as he had graduated from the school that Lin Xiu was in. But he always felt that Lin Xiu was just an ordinary beginner or quasi-warrior. He could not compare to an official warrior. But after interacting, he realized that Lin Xiu was not only calm and collected in battles, his strength was not inferior to his. No, Lin Xiu might even be stronger than him. He looked at Lin Xiu's spear. That's such a heavy weapon, how is he able to wield it so freely? Damn it! While staring at Lin Xiu, Li Yi suddenly realized that Lin Xiu had stabbed out 5 holes in a second. That was 5 strikes in a second. Wasn't that improvement too fast? Although it was just a single spear strike in the second, it was already extremely terrifying. Damn, I can only stab 5 times, Lin Xiu muttered to himself in dismay. The figure in his mind was able to unleash 100 spear strikes in a second. That was the true power of the Torrential Storm of Rose Flowers. Seems like I need to practice more. But just as Lin Xiu was about to dance with his spear and utilize the torrential storm of rose flowers again, he felt the airstreams around him. In that instant, the airstreams collided and formed a beam of light. He instinctively thrust the spear in that location. A loud bang rang out when he stabbed forth, and the wall immediately exploded. What's going on? What is that feeling upon using the skill? It was like being one with the spear. How did you just do that? Su Wen's pupils constricted when he saw that. He had only seen such a move occur from the strongest warrior in his family. Although it had been many years, he would never forget that scene. I don't know. Lin Xiu regained himself when he heard Su Wen and shook his head. What was that? Why did it seem that your might was multiple times stronger? Li Yi questioned. It was too exaggerated, the wall actually exploded the instant he thrust out. Profound intent, that was profound intent. Su Wen bellowed. You're saying that this is, Lin Xiu's pupils constricted, he suddenly recalled the knowledge in his memory from reading books. Although there was bronze to diamond ranking for skills, even the lowest bronze skill could unleash extreme power when trained and enlightened to a certain degree. With Lin Xiu's rupturing fist as an example, there was a limit to how much he could train. It was impossible for it to be comparable to a gold skill at its later stages, but if he could comprehend rupturing fist's profound intent, the power it could unleash would definitely match a gold skill. But it was extremely difficult to gain enlightenment on a skill's profound intent. Not only did it require a deep understanding of the skill, but it also required luck. That's right, luck. It was said that out of 1,000 people that trained the same skill to great success, only a handful could be successful in gaining the skill's profound intent. Upon thinking about it, Lin Xiu became excited. If he could gain the profound intent of torrential storm of rose flowers, his torrential storm of rose flowers would be much more powerful than the ordinary torrential storm of rose flowers. Chapter 44. Rank 3 Sabertooth Hound. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. Rank 3 Sabertooth Hound. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation Excellent, once more. Torrential Storm of Rose Flowers. Lin Xiu bellowed as he thrust forward with silver immortal spear. Following cold gleams of light, 4 holes appeared on another wall. The terrifying technique with the powerful might he had unleashed previously that destroyed the wall did not appear. To gain enlightenment on profound intent is not so easy. You were lucky, so be happy with it. Su Wen advised enviously. One had to rely on their feeling to be successful with gaining enlightenment on profound intent. And Lin Xiu could be considered to have extreme luck to accidentally gain slight enlightenment upon using the silver card. If he had already gained a bit of enlightenment, why should he be afraid of not gaining it again? I'm so jealous, Li Yi sighed. It was extremely infuriating to witness such a thing. It was just like hunting for a set of equipment in a game and unable to obtain it after killing the same monster tens of thousands of times, yet someone else immediately obtained it after a short while. How could one not feel jealousy and hatred? Lin Xiu chuckled and clenched his fist. It was truly unexpected happiness. So long as he continued to train, he believed that he would gain the opportunity to be enlightened on profound intent again. Alright, it's about enough rest, let's continue to head down. At this time, Su Wen looked at the other soldiers seated down and announced. Yes. They walked down the stairs and heard noises. Some of the zombies from before were actually charging upwards and even brought down the steel doors and surged upwards. Lin Xiu frowned and stabbed forward with his spear. A zombie's head exploded with his accurate aim. The soldiers only reacted after the kill and started using their guns to open fire. So, laser gun sounds came out endlessly and pierced through the zombies. A large number of zombie corpses lay on the ground. In a short span of time, the zombies that had blocked the path were decimated. We should be able to rest now. We will begin preparing for Operation Clean Up. Pay attention and don't get bitten. Su-Wen walked to the front and said. All the soldiers were slightly numb from being surrounded by the zombies earlier but had no other choice as it was their mission. If they did not comply and became army deserters, they would implicate their own families and everyone would be listed as wanted criminals. They could not leave and only fight with their lives on the line. Why do you look excited? Li Yi was originally afraid but saw Lin Xiu already holding Silver Immortal Spear tightly. Lin Xiu had walked to the front and looked extremely ready to attack, so Li Yi could not help but ask. For experience. Experience. Cough cough, experience on killing zombies. Lin Xiu laughed and replied. He had obtained a great deal of experience from killing all the zombies earlier. He had tasted the sweetness from the experience notifications. To the others, it might be hell. But to Lin Xiu, it was simply heaven. Top-grade heaven. A soldier walked towards a shutter door and reached out to pull it up when a fast zombie suddenly pounced on him. He was taken aback. He did not see any shadows or zombies when he looked inside from the window. How did the zombie suddenly appear? He was not in time to react due to the shock. But in the moment of peril, a gleam of light flickered and a hole appeared on the zombie's head. Be careful. Lin Xiu pulled his spear from the zombie's head and said indifferently. He regained himself when he heard Lin Xiu's voice and slowly staggered in to push the corpse away. Thank you. The soldier gasped and looked at Lin Xiu with gratitude. This was just a brief interlude. Upon going outside, roars could be heard. What's that? Su-Wen walked out and cast his gaze over. His pupils immediately constricted. Saber-tooth hound, rank 2 evolved beasts. Lin Xiu answered. It was exactly like what they saw from before, but it was larger in size. And they were fighting against a group of zombies. No, it should be a rank 3 evolved beast. What? Everyone exclaimed when they heard Lin Xiu's words. He used the analytical eye and identified it as a rank 3 leader, saber-tooth hound. Its traits were extreme speed and sharp claws and fangs. A rank 1 warrior could be instantly ripped apart if caught. I think it is just a rank 2, we don't have to be afraid. A soldier held onto his blade and scoffed. He had killed saber-tooth hounds before who were about as strong as ordinary rank 1 warriors. So long as they were careful, it was extremely safe. The large saber-tooth hound howled and the heads of the zombies around instantly exploded. After dealing with the zombies, it turned and glared at the humans. Its eyes were blood red and filled with murderous intent. It bent its limbs and pushed forward. The launch speed was so fast that it looked like it teleported over. Seeking death. The soldier immediately charged forward with the blade in hand as he intended to hack the saber-tooth hound in two. They had agreed previously that the odd crystals belonged to whoever killed the evolved beasts. A rank 2 odd crystal was worth a lot of money. Don't. Su-Wen did not believe Lin Xiu's words and thought that this was a rank 2 saber-tooth hound as well. But when he saw the speed at which the saber-tooth hound had flown over, he immediately felt something was wrong. It was not only huge but extremely powerful. The ground started to tremble as it ran over. Go and die. The man charged in front of the saber-tooth hound and leaped upwards as he hacked down with the blade. But just as the blade slashed down, the saber-tooth hound increased its speed and smashed into his chest. What? The instantaneous attack was too fast and exceeded his calculations. He smashed right down to the ground. But the soldier was experienced, although he was thrown to the ground, he reacted fast enough to use the blade and slashed at the saber-tooth hound's neck. Bang! Chapter 45. Besieged. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Besieged. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. The blade drew a bit of blood that splattered across his face. But the shocking fact was that the blade was stuck in the neck of the saber-tooth hound and did not slice through cleanly. How was that possible? In his disbelief, the saber-tooth hound took the opportunity and opened its jaws to bite down. Be careful. Su Wen ran forward, but the saber-tooth hound was faster than him. The bite went through the man's neck and ruptured an artery. This caused a massive amount of blood loss. The man struggled for a bit before losing his last breath. A warrior had just died like that. Su Wen's pupils constricted as he witnessed the scene before using the blade in his right hand to hack down at the saber-tooth hound's body. Dang! In that instant, the saber-tooth hound's right claws blocked and collided with his blade and unleashed a sharp metal collision sound. How sharp! Roar! The saber-tooth hound roared and caused their minds to tremble. At the same time, the blade that was stuck in its neck was flung out. The wound quickly stopped bleeding. With a smash, the warrior's head beneath its legs was smashed into meat pulp. It did not stop and pounced right at Su Wen. Lin Xiu charged forward and thrust his spear. The spear was so quick and instantly struck it. But it suddenly swerved its body and dodged his spear. What? How could it be so fast? While in shock, Lin Xiu reacted in time and retreated. The soldiers behind ran forward and launched a barrage of laser beams on the saber-tooth hound's body. It's useless. Su Wen saw their actions and shouted to them while dodging the saber-tooth hound's attack. So, the sound of laser beams resonated and struck the saber-tooth hound. But the expected destruction of its body, like how the lasers were effective on the zombies, did not occur. Instead they only left grazes on its body. It's really a rank 3 evolved beast. A few soldiers clenched their jaws when they witnessed the ineffectiveness of their guns and kept them in the bags. Evolved beasts above rank 3 had toughened skin that was impervious to laser beams. Without a choice, they took out their unique metal weapons and charged at the saber-tooth hound. Rending slash. Su Wen bellowed and used both hands to perform a slash in the air. The slash unleashed an air blade that left an extremely deep wound upon hitting the saber-tooth hound's foreleg that revealed its bone. Lin Xiu snorted and unleashed the technique he had just learned, torrential storm of rose flowers. Although it was far from the real torrential storm of rose flowers, he was able to unleash 3 stabs in a second. Unlike the awe of the phoenix, torrential storm of rose flowers was based on his physique and the quick succession of stabs. It utilized less source strength and was less of a burden on his body. The awe of the phoenix would not be powerful without imbuing source strength and would require more exertion. Bang bang bang. Cold auras flashed as Lin Xiu's 3 stabs emerged. Aside from one that missed, the other 2 stabbed into the saber-tooth hound's eye and ear. The eye exploded and the ear was immediately pierced through. As though having felt immense pain, it suddenly became even more berserk. It opened its large mouth and revealed 2 extremely long and sharp ivory fangs. It wanted to attack Lin Xiu, but Su Wen provoked it from the other side. When it wanted to attack Su Wen, Lin Xiu would land another attack on it. Meanwhile, the other soldiers had charged forward. Although it was a rank 3 evolved beast, it was besieged by many warriors. Roar! More wounds quickly appeared on its body as the warriors continued their barrage of attacks. At this time, it suddenly roared and raised its upper body and stood on 2 legs. Crap, it's going to use its ability. Lin Xiu's pupils constricted when he saw it. Evolved beasts above rank 3 could use special abilities. Who would have thought that the saber-tooth hound would have one of its own? Although they did not know what ability it was, its decision to utilize it in this situation meant that it would be dangerous. Upon hearing Lin Xiu's remark, the soldiers quickly retreated. The saber-tooth hound's eyes turned blood red as it pounced right at Lin Xiu. It had become even faster. But Lin Xiu was prepared for it and dodged to the side. Bang! It used its front claw to smack the ground that resulted in a large crack and cloud full of smoke. It was much stronger and was without a doubt the ability that the saber-tooth hound possessed when in peril. It was able to unleash 150% power from its original strength. As though it had determined Lin Xiu as its opponent, it started attacking him. Very quickly, Lin Xiu's body had a long scratch wound. The immense pain caused Lin Xiu to frown. I actually got hurt. Damn it. After doing a few rolls and avoiding the enemy, Lin Xiu stood up. He had no other choice but to use that move. Awe of the Phoenix. Just as it was about to pounce on him, Lin Xiu suddenly roared out loud with both hands clasping the spear. He originally did not plan to use the move as it was overly exhausting, but he had no other choice. A large flaming bird erupted from his spear. The flaming bird flew straight at the saber-tooth hound. The flaming bird immediately transformed into a fiery coiling dragon when they collided and started to twirl. As the saber-tooth hound already had multiple wounds on its body, the flames immediately burned its hair and burned its way into the saber-tooth hound's body through the old wounds. Roar! The excruciating pain caused the saber-tooth hound to howl loudly. Chance! Su Wen immediately unleashed multiple rending slashes. Azura Slash. Shadow Strike. The other warriors took the opportunity and unleashed all their skills. Chapter 46. Promoted once again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. Promoted once again. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Following the large number of skills, the saber-tooth hound that was fatally injured by Awe of the Phoenix felt its body temperature rise to an extremely high degree. The numerous skills caused its body to split into pieces. We finally killed it. Li Yi heaved a sigh of relief before crashing to the floor. The other soldiers fell as well. Before leaving, they were informed that Operation Cleanup's region's strongest evolved beast would not exceed rank 3 and that rank 3 evolved beasts were extremely few. Who would have thought that they would encounter one on the first day? Lin Xiu looked up and discovered a shiny odd crystal on a corpse. What do we do with this? Lin Xiu used his spear tip and retrieved the odd crystal. Since everyone had hunted it together, it was impossible for one person to swallow it. Since we have exhausted ourselves, why don't we use this crystal to recover our source strength? What does everyone think? Su Wen looked at everyone and suggested. The soldiers nodded their heads and agreed. It was pointless to sell it, and since they did not know if they could leave alive, using it to restore their source strength and train was the best choice. One after another, they held the odd crystal and absorbed some of its source strength. Very soon, it became Lin Xiu's turn. He took the source strength and placed it in his palm. He held it with both hands and sat cross-legged as he activated his cultivation technique. A large amount of source strength was absorbed by Lin Xiu. He was able to sense the odd crystal gradually turning smaller. When the last warrior absorbed the remaining source strength within, it disappeared. Not long after killing the rank 3 saber-tooth hound, more and more zombies started to appear from behind. Damn it, those guys are back. Li Yi was lying on the floor and resting when he saw zombie figures. He was alarmed and immediately stood up. The zombies had left a bit of shadow in his heart as well as other soldiers. They took out their guns and started shooting. The distance between them was too far and their lasers were unable to explode the zombies' heads. Instead, the lasers penetrated through the bodies and made the zombies even crazier. They started running fanatically towards Lin Xiu and the others as though they were competing in a 100m race. Rank 2 zombies, there were several rank 2 zombies. Damn it, why are there so many monsters? Li Yi took out his battle gear and was prepared to welcome the attack when a figure suddenly shot past him. The zombies that looked terrifying to the soldiers were all large experience points in Lin Xiu's eyes. He used his right hand to wield the spear. When the incoming zombies were almost resolved, he gripped the spear with his left and thrust it forward. 3 rank 2 zombies were quickly killed and Lin Xiu utilized the torrential storm of rose flowers. This brat doesn't care about his life, Su Wen muttered to himself internally when he saw Lin Xiu was the first to rush forward. He was more and more surprised by Lin Xiu. He had never seen anyone wield a spear and always thought that not only were spears difficult to use, but it was also difficult to train with as well. But Lin Xiu used the spear with extreme ease. Did he train with the spear for decades already? In fact, what Su Wen did not know was Lin Xiu had practiced the spear fundamentals with his life when he gained the Rapid Growth Enlightenment card, so his spear skills looked to be extremely proficient. Everyone became affected when they saw Lin Xiu struggling with all his might. They had to prevent the zombies from rushing forward, and they advanced together with Lin Xiu as they slaughtered the zombies one after the other. Ultimately, zombies were still zombies. Without any intelligence, they were easily killed. Lin Xiu had killed to the point of going crazy as the experience notifications in his head kept on ringing without stopping. Suddenly, Lin Xiu heard a ding. Congratulations master for promoting to level 13. Level 13 already. The speed surprised Lin Xiu. He knew how hard it was as he reached higher levels. But after thinking about it, the amount of experience gained from so many zombies was reasonable. Just 2 more levels. Once I level up twice, I will unlock the gene lock. At that time, my abilities will most probably rise substantially again. With that thought in head, Lin Xiu became even more excited. He quickly activated his stats board. Host. Lin Xiu level. Level 13 experience. 1005, 899,855 experience points required for the next level, strength. 111 physique. 70 speed. 32, note. An average person scores at least 38 for each segment, skill. Analytic I, Fury Rage build. Up. 0 out of 100 overall combat strength. 800 remaining potential points. 13 Without further ado, Lin Xiu added all of his potential points into strength and increased it to 124. His overall combat strength jumped from 800 to 839. After adding his points, Lin Xiu felt the spear in his hand becoming lighter, and attacking became much easier for him. Very good, with this, I will kill all the zombies in one breath. He unleashed his spear and used torrential storm of rose flowers. As he kept on utilizing the skill, Lin Xiu felt that his original 3 strikes in 1 second were improved to a stable 4 strikes in 1 second. Occasionally, he would unleash 5 strikes in a second as well. But even with this improvement, Lin Xiu felt dissatisfied at his current position. He charged right into the horde. What are you doing? Li Yi's eyes narrowed as he extended his hand to pull Lin Xiu back. However, Lin Xiu was too fast. He was already within the horde by the time Li Yi extended his hand. As he utilized torrential storm of rose flowers more and more, Lin Xiu realized that his spear was like a dragon that would release bits of light aura occasionally, and the surrounding zombies would have holes in their heads. So strong, the other soldiers were stunned and exhaled cold air. These were not rank 1 zombies but rank 2. They were rank 2 zombies that had combat strength comparable to ordinary rank 1 warriors. However, Lin Xiu was able to kill 3 zombies in the blink of an eye. Chapter 47. A great deal of experience. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. A great deal of experience. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Kill kill kill. Lin Xiu had forgotten everything else and only knew that he had to constantly brandish his silver spear. Every time he waved it, cold gleams of light dispersed. Su Wen looked over at Lin Xiu's actions and opened his mouth in surprise. He kept paying attention to Lin Xiu as the former Lin Xiu did not have such strength at all and at most had the strength of a quasi-warrior. But judging from the strength that Lin Xiu had shown so far, He looked stronger than the fellow soldiers who were currently killing the zombies. And even the weakest soldier was an official warrior. In a short period of time, he went from being a quasi-warrior to being an official warrior. With this thought, Su Wen gasped in surprise. "Keep cleaning up." While he was in a daze, a few zombies pounced from the side. He roared and brandished his spear as he continued killing those zombies. After the experience in the morning, the soldiers became more comfortable dealing with the zombies. The whole street, in this instant, was full of zombies and fresh blood stained the ground red. Not just Lin Xiu, everyone was lying on the ground, panting hard at this point. The afternoon went by quickly and they managed to clear hundreds of zombies. The number of zombies killed by Lin Xiu alone was estimated to be about the same as the rest of the soldiers combined. They had been killing since the start of the day, so they were completely exhausted. The experience points of a rank 2 zombie were about 2,000, and Lin Xiu killed more than 100 or almost 200 in the afternoon, so his experience points were already around 400,000 to 500,000. He just needed about 300,000 more points to reach level 14 and would be close to level 15 too. Lin Xiu. "How do you fight like this?" Li Yi was panting as he looked at Lin Xiu, who was lying on the other side. He really couldn't understand why Lin Xiu was trying so hard to kill the zombies like he was farming in a game. This was too crazy. Farming. Upon hearing that, Lin Xiu laughed. Li Yi shook his head and thought that Lin Xiu was just joking with him. The sky slowly began to darken, and the dark night meant that they might encounter more dangers. After about an hour's rest, everyone began to slowly get up. "Let's cook the saber-tooth hound tonight," Su Wen looked at the people who had restored their energy and said. Evolved beasts were extremely high in protein and energy, and they were more nutritious than normal meat. Previously, the saber-tooth hound's body was cut into several pieces and Su Wen had already collected the meat, then placed it on a rock. Su Wen took a sniff. It seemed like because the weather was relatively cool, the meat stayed quite fresh. At this moment, the remaining soldiers also began to look around for stones and formed a large circle. In the middle, they piled a large number of wooden blocks and stones. "Lin Xiu, we'll have to trouble you." Su Wen smiled at him. As they didn't have anything to light a fire, only Lin Xiu's awe of the phoenix could do so. Lin Xiu nodded and waved the long spear in his hand. In an instant, a flame was released and directly went toward the pile of wood in the middle. Soon, a blazing fire was ignited. "Won't we attract zombies by doing this?" Li Yi asked rather fearfully. Although he had killed a lot of zombies today, 3 soldiers died in the hands of the zombies. There were only 7 people left in the team of 10 people. "It shouldn't. We have already wiped out the zombies in this area." Lin Xiu stood on the other side of the roof and looked down. From the perimeter that he could see, there should be only this group of 100 zombies. If there were still any zombies, they should be somewhere farther away. "That's good." Li Yi and the other soldiers heaved a sigh of relief. This task was too cruel, the moment they were a little careless, it would be fatal. "Have something to eat first," Su Wen said. He took out a wooden stick and stuck a piece of saber-tooth hound's meat on it, then placed it on top of the flame and started cooking. Lin Xiu was also grilling a piece of evolved beast's meat. Such types of meat already contained a lot of oil, so with the burning fire, some oil began to seep out slowly. Although there was no seasoning, a very fragrant smell emanated from the meat. This was the first time Lin Xiu had eaten an evolved beast's meat. The book stated that this evolved beast's meat was very nutritious and could be eaten normally. Soon, the meat was cooked and Lin Xiu took a bite. The beast's meat was very chewy and tasty even without any seasoning. The rank 3 saber-tooth hound's meat was eaten up very quickly by everyone. Lin Xiu couldn't help but rub his stomach as he sat on the ground. After killing zombies for an entire day, he was indeed a little tired. But he must kill the zombies, this was the only way to increase his strength, and killing those zombies today not only increased his experience points but also improved his spear art and skill. The more dangerous the place was, the more helpful it would be to improve your own strength. Hissing, Bedodem just then, there was a slight noise. Lin Xiu's ears were sensitive and he didn't let his guard down even when he was resting. At this moment, he looked in the direction of the noise only to find a red figure behind Su Wen. Su Wen, strike backwards. Lin Xiu's pupils narrowed as he yelled loudly. The rest of the soldiers got a shock, and Su Wen was stunned too. Then, he seemed to have felt something, and without hesitation, he struck behind him and the head of a red snake was split in half. Rank 2 red-winged snake. Su Wen was taken aback. It was really this horrible thing. Lin Xiu saw that he had killed the red-winged snake and couldn't help thinking about the scene at District A20. That girl asking him to turn and pierce downwards echoed in his ears. Thank you. Su Wen heaved a sigh of relief and said to Lin Xiu. Had it not been for Lin Xiu's warning, Su Wen would have been attacked by this red-winged snake. It's all right. Lin Xiu shook his head. Su Wen took out a red odd crystal from the middle of the red-winged snake's head, then tossed it over to Lin Xiu and said firmly, "This is yours." Lin Xiu didn't reject it and directly kept it in his pocket. By the way, do you know where the sacred region is? Looking at the body of the red-winged snake, what had happened previously surfaced in his mind. Chapter 48. Sacred Region Academy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48. Sacred Region Academy Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation, Sacred Region. Su Wen and the others were taken aback when they heard this question, then pondered for a while. I don't seem to have heard of it. After a while, almost everyone shook their heads. Lin Xiu was a little disappointed. Could it be that she simply made a casual remark and there was actually no such place? Wait, I seem to have heard of it. Li Yi was still deep in thought, and after some time, he suddenly had enlightenment. On top of the 5 major academies, there is still the strongest one, the Sacred Region Academy. Sacred Region Academy. Lin Xiu knitted his brows. From his understanding, other than the 5 major academies, there wasn't any other well-known warrior academy. He hadn't heard of this Sacred Region Academy, but it sounded quite prestigious. Of course you haven't heard of it. I only heard it from my brother.in.law, Li Yi said with a proud look. Sacred Region Academy is a super warrior academy placed above the 5 big academies. Every warrior there is recognized to be a genius by other academies. Is that an exaggeration? A soldier pursed his lips, obviously a little doubtful, and felt that Li Yi was bragging. Even Su Wen was a little doubtful as he had not heard of this Sacred Region Academy. Nonsense, the minimum requirement for high school graduates was rank 2 and above in order to have the opportunity to enroll in this academy. Li Yi stretched out 2 fingers and said. He didn't know about it, but he overheard it from his brother.in.law, who was an official in the federal government. Initially, he had forgotten about it, but now that Lin Xiu brought it up, he suddenly recalled. You have to be rank 2 just to qualify. When the rest of the soldiers heard this, they gasped in surprise. BVEC, they were only rank 1 at this moment, and they graduated from high school long ago and then joined the federal government directly as soldiers. Lin Xiu raised his brows at this moment. I see, the so-called Sacred Region is actually a college academy. Initially, he thought that it was the name of a place. Rank 2. There was still a year, reaching rank 2 was just a matter of time. But thinking of that girl who was around his age, she was already higher than rank 3, it was truly quite aggravating. No, he could not fall behind. When he became a high-ranking warrior and stood in front of her, that impassive face of hers would show a hint of surprise. With that thought, the corners of Lin Xiu's lips couldn't help but twitch slightly. Lin Xiu, don't tell me you want to get into that academy, Li Yi said. Yup. Lin Xiu nodded. Ha ha ha. The rest of the soldiers laughed and they heard Lin Xiu's words. They still thought that Lin Xiu was only a quasi-warrior. After all, a high school student wanting to become a rank 1 warrior wasn't so easy. What are you guys laughing about? He's already a rank 1 warrior. Su Wen glanced at the soldiers and said. What? Hearing Su Wen's words, the rest of the soldiers were shocked. Although they knew that Lin Xiu's performance today was very brave, they thought that he just had the guts to charge forward and didn't think much about it. After all, when Lin Xiu first came, he was at best a quasi-warrior, right? Am I right? Su Wen looked at Lin Xiu like he was looking at a monster. Today, after Lin Xiu used a skill called Profound Intent, Su Wen had been secretly observing him. He did not expect that Lin Xiu's strength not only reached the level of a warrior, but he had also become much stronger than those soldiers who had long been a rank 1 warrior. Lin Xiu nodded and did not deny it. Tell me, how old are you this year? Which year are you in? Li Yi's eyes widened. As everyone was anxious and focused on killing the zombies today, they didn't have time to think about it carefully. After Lin Xiu's battle today, it was impossible that he was just at the level of a quasi-warrior. The moment Li Yi's words came out, the rest of the soldiers looked at Lin Xiu as well. Heir. Sophomore, 17 years old. Lin Xiu didn't think much of it and replied straight away. Oh my god, go and ram yourself against a tofu. Li Yi suddenly wanted to cry but didn't have the tears to do so when he heard Lin Xiu's reply. He was in his 20s and was only a rank 1 warrior. This chap was only 17 years old and he was already a rank 1 warrior. In 1 year's time, with better talent, he might even become a rank 2 warrior. That's amazing. Su Wen also gave Lin Xiu a thumbs up at this moment. These soldiers now did not treat Lin Xiu like a high school student, after all, who has seen such a perverted high school student ah. It was completely dark and other than the light from the flames, the other areas were pitch-black. Let's take turns to keep watch at night. Su Wen thought about it and proposed. There were only 7 people left, Lin Xiu, Su Wen, and Li Yi would keep watch in the first half of the night, while the remaining 4 soldiers would keep watch in the next half of the night. This way, they wouldn't be unaware if any monsters attacked. As for going to sleep in those abandoned houses, it didn't even cross anyone's mind. As those houses had been abandoned for a long time, they did not know whether there would be any mutated insects or something. After all, that building was full of giant spiders earlier, which made them disgusted. At this moment, the 4 soldiers were asleep by the tree over at the other side while Lin Xiu held his long spear and began brandishing it. Fundamental spear arts. Still training at this hour. Li Yi yawned and said. I can't sleep anyway. Lin Xiu nodded, then continued to train. Although it was ordinary spear art, it looked very strong and powerful when Lin Xiu was brandishing his spear. Block, take, jab. Lin Xiu performed the basic actions of these spear arts skillfully and easily. As he waved under the moonlight, it felt as though this silver immortal soul spear had a silver luster. It was the first time Su Wen saw someone dancing with a spear and he danced perfectly at that. No wonder Lin Xiu was so strong and progressing so quickly. Even when he was keeping watch at night, he didn't waste any time and continued practicing. Okay, I'll practice too. At this moment, Su Wen was influenced by Lin Xiu and also took out his own weapon and began brandishing it. Li Yi sat on the ground and folded his hands under his chin as he looked at the 2 men. His eyelids were drooping and saliva was dripping out of his mouth, as if he was about to fall asleep. Still training at this hour. TSK, when you don't have enough strength, you're dead. In the dark, a figure appeared, looking at Lin Xiu from a distance. Chapter 49. Assassination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49. Assassination, you boy. You're too perverted. Under the moonlight, Su Wen and Lin Xiu practiced together for a long time. Soon after, Su Wen began to pant and put the saber on the ground. He then looked at Lin Xiu, who looked like he didn't know what tiredness was and was still brandishing his long spear. Su Wen knew that Lin Xiu's long spear weighed much heavier than his saber. I want to continue practicing, you guys can rest first. I will keep watch. Lin Xiu smiled, then continued to brandish his spear. Although he was a little tired, he still kept practicing the fundamental spear arts. Lin Xiu had traveled to this future world and even had a system in his body, but he still felt very insecure. Especially since he had so many images of being bullied in the past in this body, which made him want to become stronger. Strength was everything. I'll rest for a while, call me up when you want to rest later. Su Wen nodded, seemingly tired. While Lin Xiu continued to brandish his long spear, the figure in the distance began to slowly get closer to him. Swish swish swish, his speed was so fast that the wind made whistling sounds as he charged in the direction of Lin Xiu. Lin Xiu, who was still brandishing his long spear, perked up his ears and seemed to hear a strange sound. Lin Xiu's ears were very sensitive. Initially he was brandishing his spear, but he sensed something at this moment and instinctively bent backwards 90 degrees. Bang! A sound reverberated through the air, and Lin Xiu felt a handful of his hair being cut off. That blow was similar to Su Wen's rending slash skill. The one who attacked him must be a warrior and must have observed him for a long time. The attacker was waiting for him to get tired from training to give him a fatal blow. In the blink of an eye, Lin Xiu suddenly got up and saw a cold blade appear in front of his face. Lin Xiu reacted swiftly with his long spear, the tip of the silver spear immediately blocked that cold blade. Dang! Oh! The man in black raised his brows and seemed a little surprised by Lin Xiu's reaction. Who are you? Lin Xiu used force in his arm and sent the attacker flying. The man rolled backward and directly stabilized himself. Under the moonlight, one could clearly see that he had two curved daggers in both hands, giving off a sinister aura. Someone who wants your life. The man stuck out his tongue and licked the dagger in his hand, then said in a gloomy voice. He looked a little thin, but Lin Xiu sensed the strong power from his body. Rank 2 warrior. No, he could be a rank 3 warrior. His eyes were full of murderous intent, and it was clear that he wanted to kill Lin Xiu. Who's that? Su Wen, who was resting, suddenly opened his eyes. He then looked at the man in black in shock. It's none of your business. The man sneered coldly, then swerved the dagger in his hand. The two air blades were released in an instant and hit Su Wen's side directly at high speed. Su Wen was startled, then he pulled out his own saber to block the attack. Rending slash 2. Su Wen was surprised when he saw those two nicks appearing on top of the saber he used to block. His own saber was made of special metal, and his skill could actually leave a nick on it. How powerful is this skill? Su Wen didn't know, but he was certain that this man was stronger than him. At least a rank 2 warrior. Quickly leave, he's only here for me. Lin Xiu looked at the soldiers who were slowly waking up and hurriedly told them. It was clear that he was only targeting Lin Xiu from the intention to kill the attacker revealed just now. Also, together with what happened earlier, it was likely to be someone from the Tang family. Are you from the Tang family? Lin Xiu suddenly asked as he looked over. Sure enough, at the mention of the Tang family, his gaze changed instantly. Although it was only a small change, Lin Xiu still caught it. It seemed like his guess was right. I don't know what you're talking about. The man sneered coldly, then continued to charge over like a demon. He was so fast that Lin Xiu could only see a shadow. Kill him! Su Wen exclaimed. The rest of the soldiers didn't leave either, and they all attacked the figure over there. Courting death. Looking at the soldiers who were blocking in front, his body spun instantly and the dagger in his hand left silver traces in the air. Silver skill, extreme spiral. Dang dang dang, Su-Wen and the others were shocked. The man in black spun as he charged over at high speed, and the weapons in their hands were struck by the silver traces. They immediately felt a strong impact as their weapons all flew out of their hands. Don't come here, all of you. Lin Xiu was touched when he saw that Su-Wen and the others were helping him fight off the man in black, but they were not a match for the man in black. If they came over, they would be throwing away their lives in vain. As soon as Lin Xiu said that, he ran to the other side. The man's eyes narrowed when he saw this scene. He ignored Su-Wen and the rest, and quickly charged at Lin Xiu. Soon, the two men disappeared into the night. Who the hell was that? Su-Wen looked at the man chasing after Lin Xiu and frowned. But it was clear that that person was strong. Lin Xiu might be in great trouble this time. Su-Wen, what do we do now? A soldier looked in the direction where Lin Xiu disappeared and asked Su-Wen. Of course we have to save Lin Xiu. How dare that man attack someone from our Xingyao army? He's really bold, Li Yi said to the soldiers as he picked up the saber and placed it on his shoulder. Su-Wen nodded, picked up his weapon, and rushed out with the others. You think you can flee? Just as Lin Xiu covered some distance, the man in black immediately appeared in front of him and sneered coldly. He was still holding the two daggers that exuded a cold aura as he looked at Lin Xiu like he was looking at a dead man. Chapter 50. Killing a Rank 3 Warrior. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50. Killing a Rank 3 Warrior. Lin Xiu looked at the man in black and said, I didn't think of fleeing. Under the moonlight, the surrounding place didn't look too dark. I just wanted to find a quiet place to kill you. Arrogant. Hearing Lin Xiu's words, the man in black suddenly exclaimed coldly, then with the sharp daggers in his hands, he charged over to Lin Xiu's side. His body was like a dark shadow as he charged, it was really eerie. Lin Xiu knitted his brows. Could this be a motion-type skill? One must know that this kind of skill was very rare and couldn't be sold in the market as it was one of the rarest skills. Lin Xiu moved the spear in his hand and jabbed it toward that shadow. But his speed was too fast and the spear couldn't strike him. That man in black appeared in front of Lin Xiu, and at this moment, the dagger in his right hand was advancing toward Lin Xiu's neck. Lin Xiu's pupils narrowed in shock, and he instinctively bent his neck back but still felt piercing pain. A trace of blood oozed out. Just as the man in black was trying to continue attacking Lin Xiu's head with the dagger in his left hand, he found that Lin Xiu's right foot had reached out and kicked his abdomen. Bang! The man in black couldn't dodge in time and was directly sent flying. But in the air, he did a somersault and landed stably on the ground. TSK, didn't think that you still had quite a bit of strength, huh? The man in black laughed strangely, then pulled out his dagger, and licked the blade that was stained with Lin Xiu's fresh blood. It was as if he tasted something delicious. Feeling the blood seeping out of his neck, Lin Xiu's eyes became colder and colder. Anger, his heart was filled with anger. The weak people were doomed to be bullied. If he was still the former Lin Xiu, he would have already died so many times. His hands grabbed the silver immortal soul spear tightly and he glared at the man in black. Feeling Lin Xiu's stare, the man in black knitted his brows. It was as if he was being stared at by a snake, which made him very unhappy. How could he be afraid of Lin Xiu's murderous look? Impossible. Boy, who are you staring at? At this moment, he couldn't help but get agitated. That strange dark shadow charged forward again and got close to Lin Xiu at high speed. Lin Xiu held the spear with both hands and was very calm as he stood at the same spot without moving. Go to hell. The man in black leaped high as he approached Lin Xiu, the daggers in his hands flashing a cold light. Silver skill. Falling petals. Immediately, it appeared as if there were many daggers and it was impossible to differentiate the real ones from the illusions. Under this sort of situation, ordinary people wouldn't be able to fight them off. The only way was to avoid all of them. But if Lin Xiu avoided them, the man could take advantage of this and slit his throat directly by going behind Lin Xiu. This blow was a fatal trick. Torrential storm of rose flowers. But to the man's surprise, Lin Xiu did not dodge his daggers and brandished his spear instead. At this time, Lin Xiu was boiling with rage. The silver immortal soul spear seemed to be able to feel the master's murderous intent and began shaking. Bang bang bang, as Lin Xiu brandished his spear, several sounds of explosion rang out in the air. The silver spear turned into virtual images, and a cold light flashed from its tip like a dragon emerging out of the sea as it rose up into the sky and struck down at the man in black. 4 strikes in 1 second. You're courting death. The man's pupils constricted when he saw this scene and gritted his teeth as he continued his attacks. But when he saw Lin Xiu's fearless gaze, he was finally afraid. This guy must be crazy. He didn't want to die. If he died, he wouldn't have a chance to enjoy life no matter how much money he had. Bang! Just the next second, his daggers from both hands pierced into Lin Xiu's shoulders. And Lin Xiu's spear had pierced his cheekbones, going through completely. It looks like I've won. The man in black felt the severe pain caused by the broken bone, but as long as he pulled the daggers out of Lin Xiu's shoulders, his daggers could exhibit its strongest effect at this close range and instantly slit Lin Xiu's throat. Says who? Lin Xiu looked straight at him and said indifferently. What the? The man in black's eyes opened wide when he looked down and realized that in addition to being pierced through the cheekbones, there were 3 other bloody holes in his chest. You, the man in black was in dismay, and blood trickled down the corners of his mouth. He had not expected that he would lose his life here. No, it must be because he was afraid of death at the last moment which led to the success of Lin Xiu killing him. But by this time, it was too late to think any further. His consciousness dissipated in an instant. Ding! Congratulations master on killing a rank 3 warrior. You've gained 120,000 experience points. 120,000 experience points. So much. But at this moment, Lin Xiu suddenly felt that everything in front of him became blurry, and his consciousness gradually became fuzzy. With a bang, he fell to the ground. Not sure how long had passed when Lin Xiu smelled the fragrance of meat and slowly began to open his eyes. The sharp pain in his shoulders reminded him of what happened yesterday. Oh right, I killed a rank 3 warrior. Lin Xiu. You're awake. Just then, someone said in surprise. The sunlight was a little bright, and Lin Xiu squinted his eyes as he saw Li Yi in front of him. Su Wen and the other soldiers were brewing a pot of broth on the fire nearby. His clothes were taken off and replaced with thick white gauze wrapped around his shoulders. Are you all right? The voices of Su Wen and the others resounded. Lin Xiu shook his head and sat up slowly. Chap, you actually killed Shadow Wu Ji. Li Yi gave Lin Xiu a thumbs up and spoke with admiration. Shadow Wu Ji. Lin Xiu furrowed his brows, obviously a little confused. Shadow Wu Ji was one of the most wanted killers in Xingyao City. Li Yi exclaimed excitedly. He was a rank 3 warrior. Boy, how did you get rid of him? Bring his body back and you'll receive a big bounty. Lin Xiu thought of what happened last night. It was very dangerous, and if not for that man's fear of death at the last moment, Lin Xiu might have lost his life there.